All right, news of the day. It's like my fourth or fifth take. I don't know. I'm doing my best here. Uh so news of the day video. There's some good hockey news that's out there. There's there's some other hockey news that's out there as well, and we're gonna just go ahead and get our way through it. I'm wearing a Bruins jersey because I'm really hoping that one of the news articles on here doesn't end up being true. So the whole idea of just cancel, well, no, and Bettman saying no, because they do see an opportunity here. That in an interview he said that with the Olympics being called off, it opens up a lot of broadcasting opportunities for the NHL that wouldn't have been there in August had the Olympics been on. So the Olympics being canceled actually helps the NHL not cancel and helps Major League Baseball likely as well. Because there are multiple sports that are all on hold right now. Basically, globally, everything's on hold right now, right? And, you know, there definitely would be some certainty if they made a decision. The earliest we're going to see any kind of decision will be the end of April. And that decision may be we're not going to play regular season. I've been through this with the NHL before through 3 lockouts, okay? 94, 95, 2012, 2013. And of course, then there's 2004, 2005 where the entire season was wiped out. That's how the NHL works. Well, we're not going to work. If we're going to have a full schedule, we're going to have to start playing by. They give you a date. Oh, if we're going to have a 70-game schedule, we're going to have to play by, and they give you a date. If we're going to have any kind of schedule at all, and then they give you a date. And then usually it's after that they actually come out and go, well, no. Or they come out and go, yeah, well, we know that we gave you that date, but we're actually going to start playing again anyways. And we're just going to squash it all together. And that's kind of the way the NHL's been with lockouts, and I don't see any reason that they have to treat it differently for this. And I understand that obviously it's a completely different situation, completely different circumstance, but as a business, they're looking at this and going, all right, at what point? And there are a lot of businesses right now that are screaming, we want to reopen, we need to. And so it's a matter of balancing. You're trying to balance the health of the public, and you're trying to balance that against business. And man, I tell you, the people that make the decisions on what to do and when, that's going to be quite the road they have to go down. I'm not kidding. Like that is going to be the most tremendous challenge we've ever faced. The one thing that I keep thinking about that keeps me remaining somewhat positive is that I know all the numbers are scary right now, but the underlying economy was in okay condition before we went into this. So once they figure out either some kind of a treatment or whatever they figure out, the economy should bounce back. It won't bounce back quickly, but it should bounce back and at least get to where it was before we went into this. So that's how I'm viewing it. And, you know, I don't think that this is not, like I keep hearing, oh, trade's going to be greatly affected. I don't know that the trade of goods will necessarily be that much affected. I don't know that movement between countries will be affected when it's said and done, and that's way down the road. But it's going to be affected short term, sure. But yeah, well, the NHL is not in a position to have to make a decision right now. So I'm hoping this is the last time I'm covering this. But that being said, between now and the end of April, who knows what changes? Who knows what numbers will look like? Again, if you're in New York, you're in New Jersey, you're seeing some scary stuff right now. Here in British Columbia, I think the numbers yesterday for how many new cases was 25. So, the numbers, depending on where you are getting better or getting worse. Like in Washington State, which is where all of this began, Washington State, the numbers have not been that bad, comparatively speaking, with some other states. So, it's a changing situation where we can kind of guess what's going to happen, but even the health professionals say, yeah, we're guessing. I saw a report yesterday where, in one interview, a guy says, well, anything that's projecting past 6 weeks is not a complete guess. You have all these different models, but there's a lot more guesswork once you get past 6 weeks, which is why the NHL is looking at August and going, that's 5 months from now, 4 months from now. So see that, and that's the thing. So we're still in this situation where the NHL doesn't have to make up its mind as much as we might want them to. They don't have to. SC Bern in the Swiss League. make some headlines for good reasons. They've hired Florence Schelling, the first female GM for a top tier men's team. And 2014, she won the bronze medal as part of the Swiss team that went to Sochi. She was also the MVP that year at the Olympics. Retired in 2018. She's 31 years of age. So here's to hoping she does well. Now, Bern finished ninth out of 12 teams in the Swiss League this year. They didn't make the playoffs. So we'll see how this works. I'm interested. I got to admit, I'm kind of interested to see how she does. And yeah, so here's to hoping for the best for Bern and just in general. Yeah, Swiss League. But again, not making the playoffs didn't really matter because the Swiss League canceled their playoffs. So did anybody actually miss the playoffs? Yeah, I guess they sort of did. But it'll be interesting to see how that works because, of course, we've seen Cami Granato in Seattle as a pro scout. We're starting to see women in more prominent roles in the hockey world. It's a slow but steady thing, which is how it should work. Really, in all honesty, if you sit down and you just go, all right, who's the best person for the job? You're the best person for the job. And if Bern says Florence Schelling's the best person for the job, that's that. And the rest of it, I don't really care. Ken Holland has said that he's interested in Slepyshev. Remember Slepyshev Edmonton? Apparently they've made an offer to him, and now it's just a matter of whether he wants to come back from the KHL. He's about to turn 26 years of age. So it's possible that after going home, he comes back, and he's a forward, he's a winger. So, right? Can always use another winger on a cheap contract. So if Slepyshev comes back, it'll be interesting to see if he's thrown on a line with a Draisaitl or a McDavid. As I remember, his skating was pretty good. Hands weren't necessarily where you'd want him to be, but you know what? He's had a few years at home, and we'll see what kind of player comes back. Torrey Krug. This is the Boston jersey recent. Torrey Krug's hoping he didn't play his last game for Boston. Apparently, contract negotiations aren't going well. And there's just hasn't been any movement by the two sides. So that sucks. I love Torrey Krug. If Krug goes somewhere else, I will cheer for him kind of no matter where he goes. So yes, if he signed in Pittsburgh or Montreal, it doesn't matter. I'll still cheer for him. And he's hoping he didn't play his last game for. I'm hoping he didn't play his last game for Boston too. That would be sad. Cause yeah, that would be really sad. I'm really hoping that he's not done as a Boston Bruin. And there are a lot of players right now, like Justin Williams. There was an interview with him where he's like, "Yeah, I haven't really thought about it." Like the idea that if we don't get back into some kind of hockey, there's a lot of careers that are just kind of over, and there's no send off. There's no big spiel. I guess next season you can have like a night for the players that retire, but yeah, for right now, who knows, right? We may have seen Lundqvist's last game with the New York Rangers, and that's kind of sad if that was the case. But that had been a kind of a sad thing going on for a while anyways, kind of an uncomfortable, he's on the bench, he's not going to play, they won't play him unless they have to situation. So, good news as well. Haley Wickenheiser, who's in medical school, and she's in her last year, not completed that yet, due to the fact that everything's on hold for education as well. And there are some med students that have been kind of pushed into actually going to work. I think that's more on the American side than the Canadian side, but I'm pretty sure that's happening everywhere anyways. Ryan Reynolds helped out Haley Wickenheiser. Haley Wickenheiser put out a call for donations of 13,500 masks, 13,500 gloves, and 1,350 chemo gowns. So, the chemo gowns, yeah. So, that's what she was calling for. And Ryan Reynolds, who has like 35 million followers, he tweeted out about it. And yeah, that PPE that has been running low in Toronto got a huge boost through this. So the group that she's a part of, they got 25,000 masks in 24 hours. She mentioned there was one company in particular that sent thousands of masks. So, this is a time where we're starting to see, people doing some good things. And there are a lot of companies that have started producing ventilators and PPE equipment, so that's good as well. It's nice to see. On a related note, yes, the third member of the Avalanche has tested positive for COVID. And they're not releasing names, which I'm fine with. That actually doesn't bother me at all. In the NBA's case, they've released names because the players were okay with it. So the players in question were okay with it. NHL players, they're not. Now, the one thing is this seems to be a little different, at least the way it's being reported. that maybe this is somebody who just got it. And again, we're going to see players who do get this because it's out there and there's a lot of it. So it'd be interesting to see how this works. And I've seen people say, well, if they started something up and somebody got sick, then they have to shut everything down. Not if you have strenuous testing. Part of the reason everything got shut down is we didn't have testing. So it was just, okay, Rudy Gobert, and we're all out of work. We're all done. Everybody go home. So that's part of it. So if you have testing on a daily basis, and it's going to require tests that these new tests that give you results in 15 minutes, and you're going to have to do daily tests, maybe before a game, maybe after, like Dana White saying he's going to test before, during, and after fights, which, okay. So he's saying everything's going to be safe. I hope so, Dana. I really, really do. Because again, UFC's looking at the situation and going, hey, we can make all the money. So apparently he's getting a private island, which I said on the entertainment guy, I'm just picturing like a Dr. Moreau situation. They'll come out half tiger or something, and the Tiger King will be the referee. So we're at this stage now where sports are trying really hard. And so for Colorado, they've had 3 positive tests. There have been 5 with Ottawa Senators, and that's what we know right now. We don't know the names. We will hear rumors. Odds are when this has moved on and we've got back to normal life of some sort, players will say, yeah, I was one of the guys who had it. But so that's where we're at. Jeff Skinner has donated $53,000 3 times to different charities. He is doing his best to give back to the community as well as he can, and I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. And he's not the only one. There are a lot of players. I could have gone through and found tons of players who are spending their time and or money giving back to their communities, and it's nice to see. Absolutely great to see. Now, when we talk about this whole what they do with the season situation, there's been talk of, and this was an article on TSN today, or Sportsnet, on 68 game rollback versus points percentage. So if we don't get any more regular season games, how do you figure it out? Now, the way I did it on an NHL 20 was just, well, who's in the playoffs? I'll use them. Who isn't in the playoffs? Well, I'll go that way. And I did that because it's the easiest way to go without doing something like this, where you're going. Now, I understand people say points percentage. Whether you do points percentage or a 68 game rollback where you just don't count the games that played 69, 70, 71, the same teams make the playoffs. Now, rightfully, if your team played 71 games and you have more points than a team that's played 68, you could look at this situation and say, well, wait a minute. There's no guarantee that over the next 3 games they would have passed us. That's not how games in hand work. And I've seen many times over the last few years with this channel especially where I'm, watching all these teams. I go, well, this one's got 4 games in hand on that one. This one's going to pass that one. And then those 4 games in hand, they lose all 4. And you go, oh, never mind. Whoops, sorry. So there is something to be said for teams that already have points, right? And so points percentage, it gets kind of dicey, but the NHL's going to have to figure something out. Because again, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get regular season games in. And the other thought I've had is just to get everybody to 71 games. The problem is then the teams that have already played 71 games would be on the sidelines for probably at least a week before they'd get into a playoff game. And those other teams that played games 69, 70, 71, they're going to be well ready for playoff games. They'll have been playing hockey. So for teams that have been sitting waiting, they're not going to be in game shape as well as the other ones. So it is a dicey points percentage. I could see them going with. Either way, yes, Vancouver would make the playoffs, and Calgary, it looks like, would be the team that would be out, which would not make Flames fans happy at all. So, CCM, back to the donations of masks and all this wonderful stuff. CCM and players are donating 500,000 masks, and they're coming up with ways to try to reuse masks, and Dr. Tam here in Canada is telling people not to throw away the masks. It's paper, so I mean you can recycle it, but I'm not getting into that. It's kind of dicey. So CCM's donating 500,000 as the battle continues with PPE if you're in the medical field. Now, in the final note from today's news, Alexis Lafreniere He is still number one on the overall list for the draft for 2020. The final rankings reveal he's number one. Act surprised. Are you surprised? Why aren't you surprised? I'm not surprised either, but why aren't you surprised? Right, because nobody has been seen as being close to him all year. So while you've got other players in the mix that look like they're going to be very good, it is the Lafreniere draft. Now, does Byfield go 2? Does Stützle go 2? Does Drysdale build up some kind of hype and end up going higher than 5? These are questions that I have that we will see the answers to once the NHL makes some decisions. But there you go. News of the day video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. It means a lot. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And remember, stay home, stay safe as much as you can, and don't forget to wash your hands as often as possible. I will talk to you again soon.